So we're going to answer one more question, and then we're going to have a few moments for questions from the audience. So if you have a burning question, you can be thinking about that right now. Catherine's going to take the lead on this final question, which is any tips on the hiring process as you think about company culture fit? So we've talked about a lot about culture and what it is, but how do you know in the hiring process, like what are you allowed to ask? For those of us who aren't HR professionals, sometimes we get completely freaked out about that. So what are the ways that you can ask about or think about culture fit and make sure that we're doing everything in a way that does fit our policy and procedure manual?
Goodness, I feel like I need to put a big disclaimer on anything I'm about to say now.
Go for it.
I am not a lawyer. Consult a lawyer. I think the first step is just to try and make the candidate feel as comfortable as possible in the process. And by doing so, they're going to share more about who they are and what they're passionate about. Interviews are not fun for really anybody. I mean, even being an interviewer sometimes is uncomfortable. It's boring. It's not the most exciting thing sometimes. And so doing everything you can in terms of where your chairs are placed, how you greet the person, how the conversation opens, how the conversation progresses. Is it a firing of questions or is it a conversation? So doing whatever you can to make that person feel as comfortable as possible so they share as much about themselves and what they're passionate about as possible. And the questions really, they're not... I've shared our interview questions with you before. They are not like rocket science. It's just, tell me what you're passionate about. What do you really enjoy doing? What is something that you've been really excited to work on in the past? Tell me about the best professional relationship you've ever had. What was the most challenging professional relationship you've ever had? And not just leaving it at their response, but asking why, asking for examples, asking for how does that play out in your personal life? How does that play out in your professional life? Asking some of these questions to really kind of get to the root of some of these things. And I think in an organization like ours where we have, 10 departments, for example, somebody can apply to be in our customer support, for example, and in getting to know the candidate better and asking questions like this, I'm then able to determine, you know what, you're not a good fit for our customer support. You should be on our accounting team. So I almost act as a recruiter for them and kind of an advocate for them. If I can get to know them better, I can place them in a place of success. That's good for them. It's good for us. So one of the ways that we go about doing this is our interview process is pretty extensive. We recognize that. We tell people up front, you're going to go through at minimum 3 interviews. Some people are going through 6 or 7. And the whole purpose behind this is a big decision. We're going to work together. Hopefully, we're hiring somebody on with the intention to retire with them. And so we're going to invest some time up front for the candidate's sake and for our sake. But the very first step is a cultural fit screen. And so that typically looks like about a 20-minute, 30-minute phone call where we don't talk about skill. We don't talk about experience. We don't talk about education. We're not talking about the day-to-day of the job. We're just getting to know the person. And they're getting to know us and getting to know the organization a little bit better. It's a face to add to the culture and to really hopefully bring that to life. And so by really investing that time up front, we're then able to find people that I think can really embrace the culture and really feel at home. And so if somebody doesn't make it past that cultural fit screen, it does not matter how excellent they are. They could be the best developer that's ever developed, and but they're not going to the second interview. It's non-negotiable. We don't budge on it. Cultural fit is number one. And so another thing that we've started doing at first, like that was kind of the baby step, is identifying culture and then getting people to fit. And then now what we look for is what we call cultural add. So it's just not cultural fit, but cultural addition. And so finding people that add something that we didn't know we were missing. And just when it happens, you know it. It's just kind of a weird way to talk about it. But there are people, I did make a mistake early on, I think, in hiring a lot of people that I was like, I want to be friends with them. Like, I can't wait to hang out with them. They're going to be awesome and we're going to love working together. But then in time I figured that it's not just about me. And so I started finding that I would say, well, gosh, that person's going to be great friends with John. That person's going to be great friends with Sally. Like, they need friends, they need connection as well. And so finding people that can build relationships across the organization. And that's really what we mean when we start talking about cultural fit. Like, that can show up in so many different ways. Not everybody at N2 is just like me, but we all have a common thread of agreeing to the cultural deck and then hopefully maintaining it and enhancing it over the years. Does that help explain?
Yeah,
okay.
That's great. You say something?
Yeah, I was going to say also, and I agree with Catherine, that diversity is huge in defining diversity however you wish. Just, that typically breeds the best ideas on the team, and welcoming that and showing that up front. The other thing I like is shadowing, giving the opportunity for that applicant to come in and actually see you. It's something about transparency that people really respect, and the fact that you're willing to open your books and show that to them goes a long way. And again, mixing the diversity is a big piece. You give me 10 people who think alike, I don't need 9 of them. So,
yeah, that's a great point.
Oh, Kevin's not saying this about himself. Kevin has a personal vision, mission, I don't know what you'd call it, but inspiring others to care, which I love that about you. And I think that goes a long way when it comes to the hiring process. There's another thing that I read about you, and it's smile and smile often is what you tell everyone around you, and that resonates in the interview process when you're spending time with people. You've got to show that passion in that process and give them time to get to know the teams as well. You heard a little bit of about that as well, but spending time with the people they'll be working with, and especially the shadowing. When someone starts, we make sure before they really jump into their position that they're visiting all the different aspects of Green and getting to know the whole company and what it's about, and not just that position, so they can see a bigger picture of what's happening, and that helps encourage that right fit as well.
I love the idea of shadowing. I like the idea of writing blog posts about a day in the life of, or sharing on social media, because so many people think that jobs are very different than they turn out to be. This happens a lot in a lot of different careers, and I'm sure that some of you have heard, oh, that sounds so fun about your job, and you're like, really? You should see what we're doing all day. And not because it isn't fun, but because it's hard and it might be different, and you want to set realistic expectations. Somebody's much more likely to be successful and be with you long term if they really know what it looks like